I make her wear 2 pairs of underwear. It's not a fetish. It's to keep the scum from targeting her. But last night, after her college reunion, the pair she wore underneath was gone. The bathroom light was stark white. Her fingers, clutching the remaining pair, were trembling. She said some pervert cornered her, that it got torn off in the struggle. I stared at the red mark on her neck she hadn't managed to cover. My blood went cold. That wasn't torn off by a pervert. She took it off herself. The protective bubble I had so carefully constructed for her had become her hall pass for some other man. In the mirror, my smile was so tight my teeth ached. My knuckles were white. Just wait, you two animals. Whatever filthy corner you screwed in, I'll drag you out, strip you bare, and throw you into the sunlight for the whole world to see how pathetic you are. That missing pair of underwear will be your one-way ticket to hell. Well, I didn't call her out on it. I just reached out and took the wrinkled underwear from her hand. The cotton was still warm with her body heat, searing my skin like a brand. Go take a shower. My voice was devoid of emotion. As I turned, I slammed my shoulder into the doorframe with a dull thud. She didn't ask if I was hurt. She just shut the bathroom door. The water started running. I leaned against the wall, staring at the blurred silhouette on the frosted glass. The hickey, on the right side of her neck, near her collarbone, a mark the size of a thumbnail. It was fresh, the edges clean. It was the kind of mark left in a moment of passion, a mark I knew all too well. When we were first in love, I'd left countless marks just like it on her skin. A pervert would leave a mark like that? Tell that to someone stupid enough to believe it. My phone buzzed in my pocket. An urgent email from work. I glanced at it and deleted it. Right now, the sky could fall, and it wouldn't matter more than the woman in that bathroom. So important that I was going to crush her and her new man with my own 2 hands. The bathroom door opened. She came out wrapped in a towel, her wet hair plastered to her face, her eyes red and swollen. She looked like a frightened rabbit. I used to fall for that act. Now it just made me sick. Jake, she began timidly, her fingers twisting the edge of the towel. Please don't be mad, okay? I was so scared. I forced a smile and reached out, stroking her hair. The cold water trickled from my fingertips down my collar. It felt like ice. Don't be afraid. I'm here. Her body tensed for a second, then she threw herself into my arms, her shoulders starting to shake. Hot tears soaked through my shirt. So hot. Hot enough to make me want to throw her into a freezer. I'll get the security footage tomorrow, I said, my voice gentle enough to drip honey as I held her. I'll find that bastard. I could feel her sobs stop dead. A few seconds passed before she mumbled. Let's just forget it. It's too humiliating. Humiliating? I looked down, my nose brushing the top of her head. My wife gets assaulted and I do nothing? That's humiliating. She looked up sharply, a flicker of panic in her eyes. No. She grabbed my arm, her grip surprisingly strong. Really, let go. I don't want to talk about it ever again. I saw the raw fear deep in her eyes and laughed to myself. Scared? Scared I'll actually look into it. Scared I'll drag her new man into the light. Okay, I said, patting her back soothingly. Whatever you want. She visibly relaxed, hugging me tighter. I could clearly smell her perfume. It wasn't the one she usually wore. A strange, sweet scent, like a snake's tongue, flicking at my nerves. Later, as she went to the living room for a glass of water, her phone, left on the nightstand, lit up. It was an iMessage preview. You asleep? The contact was saved as old classmate. The time was 11:40 p.m. I picked up the phone. My thumbprint unlocked it. Her passcode was still our anniversary. How ironic. I opened the chat with old classmate. The history was clean. Scrolling up, I saw nothing but a few pages of meaningless small talk. It looked like it had been deliberately scrubbed. But I noticed that yesterday afternoon, before she left, this old classmate had asked her, "Does the red dress look good?" She'd sent back a blushing emoji. The red dress. The exact burgundy dress I'd bought her last year was the one she'd worn last night. I scrolled down and saw a retracted message. The timestamp was 9:17 p.m. What had he unsent? I checked her Facebook. Her latest post was a landscape photo from 3 days ago. But I remembered she'd posted a video from the reunion last night, with the location tagged at the Starlight Lounge. It was gone now. The more you try to hide something, the more obvious it becomes. I put the phone back where I found it and closed my eyes. Starlight Lounge. Old classmate. The hickey. The missing underwear. The pieces clicked together in my head, forming a clear, damning picture. She thought she cleaned up her tracks? So naive. Every action leaves a trace. Like the hickey on her neck. Like that missing pair of underwear. She rolled over, carefully wrapping her arm around mine. Her breathing was even, as if she were sound asleep. I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling. In the darkness, the corners of my mouth curled into a wider and wider grin. The game was just beginning. The next morning, She made my favorite fried eggs. Her eyes were still a little swollen, and she looked at me with a mixture of guilt and a desire to please. Jake, I'm so sorry I made you worry. I took a bite of egg. The salt was perfect. It's fine, I said, looking at her. Just don't stay out so late anymore. I won't, she nodded vigorously, like a child who had just been forgiven. I grabbed my laptop bag to leave for work. At the door, I glanced back at her. By the way, I said, feigning casualness, did you see Mark at the reunion yesterday? Mark was her classmate from college. I knew he used to have a thing for her. Her hand, holding a glass of milk, paused. Her eyes darted. Oh, yeah, I saw him. We just chatted for a bit. Ah. I nodded and opened the door. Is he still the same old Mark? Pretty much. Her voice trailed off. I closed the door, the smile vanishing from my face. Mark, so it was you. In the elevator, I pulled out my phone and dialed a number. I needed to run a background check on someone. Who? The voice on the other end was thick with sleep. Mark Johnson, my wife's college classmate. You should be working in the city. I watched the floor numbers descend. The more detailed, the better. Especially his whereabouts last night. What's wrong? Is Chloe in trouble? Don't ask, my voice turned to ice. I want the results before noon. Done. He hung up. The elevator doors opened to a blindingly bright morning. I squinted. Mark, whether it was you or not, now that you're on my radar, you're not walking away clean. That missing pair of underwear. I'll start with you, and piece by piece, I will shred every last one of your lies. I got in my car and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, our home grew smaller and smaller. It used to be my sanctuary. Now it was a swamp breeding betrayal. No matter how deep the swamp, I can dredge the filth out of it piece by piece. Let the sun shine in and see just how dirty it is. My phone buzzed. A text from my buddy. Got it. Mark was at the Starlight Lounge from 7 to 10 p.m. last night. He stepped out for an hour in the middle of it. Attached was a screenshot from Mark's Instagram. Posted at 11 p.m. last night. The caption read, "Great seeing old friends." The location was also tagged as the Starlight Lounge. But in the photo, the seat next to him was empty. 1 hour. Enough time to do a lot of things. I tossed the phone onto the passenger seat. The steering wheel creaked in my grip. Good. The trail was getting clearer. Next stop, the Starlight Lounge. I was going to find out exactly which room they were in during that hour and what kind of disgusting business they were up to. I drove straight to the back entrance of the Starlight Lounge. Fewer cameras here, easier to park, and easier for certain people to conduct their affairs in secret. I sat in the car and lit a cigarette. Through the swirling smoke, I watched the club's flashing neon sign. It looked just like the hypocritical smiles on their faces. My phone rang. It was Leo. He was my childhood friend, now a detective with the CPD. Running a name or pulling some security footage was child's play for him. Hey, I need a favor, I said, getting straight to the point. Shoot. Leo's voice was, as always, crisp and professional. Pull the security footage from the Starlight Lounge from 7 to 11 p.m. last night. Specifically the back entrance and the third-floor hallway. What's going on? You in some kind of trouble? Don't ask. I'll explain later, I said, stubbing out the cigarette. As fast as you can. Got it. Leo didn't press further and hung up. I leaned back against the seat and closed my eyes. All I could see was the hickey on my wife's neck and the panic in her eyes when she lied. And Mark's face, seemingly honest, but hiding a cesspool of filth. When did it start between them? About half an hour later, Leo sent me a video file. The footage showed the third-floor hallway at 8:15 last night. My wife, Chloe, wearing that burgundy dress, was walking alongside Mark. His hand was resting a little too comfortably on the small of her back. And Chloe, she didn't push him away. Instead, her head was slightly bowed, as if she were smiling. The two of them entered room 308. They didn't come out until 9:10. When they emerged, Chloe's hair was a mess, and the hickey on her neck was faintly visible. Mark, on the other hand, had a look of pure satisfaction. He even reached out to smooth her hair. My fists clenched instantly, my knuckles turning white from the pressure. Room 308. 1 hour. Every suspicion was confirmed. Those two animals were screwing around in a place like this. I took a deep breath, trying to cage the inferno raging inside me. It wasn't time yet. I didn't just want to expose them. I wanted to ruin their reputations, to make them wish they were dead. I texted Leo back. Thanks. Then, I pushed open the car door and walked straight into the Starlight Lounge. The hostess at the front desk greeted me warmly. Welcome, sir. Do you have a reservation? I'm looking for the waitress who served room 308, I said, my face a mask. The hostess paused, then pointed to a young woman cleaning up nearby. That would be her. I walked over and tapped the girl on the shoulder. She jumped, startled. Sir, can I help you? I have a question. Last night, in room 308, did a man and a woman leave early? I stared directly into her eyes. Her gaze flickered. She stammered, I'm not sure. We were really busy last night. Is that so? I pulled $100 bill from my wallet and pressed it into her hand. Think again. The girl clutched the money, hesitated, and then lowered her voice. Yeah, a man and a woman did leave room 308 early last night. Around 9-something. Did you notice anything unusual when they left? The woman. She seemed a little out of it. She was unsteady on her feet, and the man had to support her, the waitress recalled. And I think I saw something on her dress. It looked like mud. Mud? My stomach dropped. How could there be mud inside a karaoke lounge? Unless they went somewhere else in the middle of their session. Which exit did they use? The back door. Of course. I handed her another 100. Thank you. No problem at all, she said quickly, taking the cash. I turned and walked out of the lounge back to my car. My mind raced, piecing together the new information. They entered room 308 at 8:15, left at 9:10, and used the back exit. There was mud on her dress. What do they do in that room? And where else do they go? I opened Google Maps and searched the area around the Starlight Lounge. Besides a few shops, there was a large demolition zone, an area overgrown with weeds and littered with construction debris. It was certainly a secluded place. Could they have gone there? I started the car and drove toward the demolition zone. The closer I got, the worse the road became. Finally, I parked at the entrance and continued on foot. It was eerie inside. The wind whistled through the ruins, sounding like ghosts crying. I used my phone's flashlight to navigate, moving forward step by step. Suddenly, I saw something glinting in a nearby, abandoned shed. I walked over. It was an earring. I recognized it. It was the one I'd given Chloe for her birthday last year. My heart sank into a pit of ice. They had been here. I searched the shed meticulously. My eyes were suddenly drawn to something in the corner. It was a pair of underwear. A pair of pink underwear. The exact pair Chloe was wearing underneath last night. I picked them up. They were stained with dirt and some other unidentifiable substance. A wave of nausea washed over me. I fought it down and placed the underwear in an evidence bag I kept in my car. This was it. This was the ironclad proof of their affair. I walked out of the shed, pulled out my phone, and sent a text to Leo. Give me Mark Johnson's home address and place of employment. Then, I sent a text to my wife. Hey, honey, I have to work late tonight. Won't be home for dinner. She replied almost instantly. Okay, sweetie. Take care of yourself. Looking at her message, I let out a cold laugh. Take care of myself? Just wait until I expose the filthy secrets of you two animals. Let's see how you can even stand to live then. I sat back in my car, staring at the evidence bag in my hand. Mark and my dear wife, Chloe, your little game is over. Now it's my turn. I'm going to make you understand the excruciating price of betraying me. 3. I stared at the information Leo had sent to my phone. Mark Johnson, 35, a manager at some publicly traded corporation. Address, Maple Creek Condominiums, Building 3, Unit 501. There was a photo attached. Mark's wedding picture with another woman. So the bastard was married. I sneered. A couple of dogs running in the same pack. I started the car and headed for Maple Creek. I wasn't planning to confront him now. A good show needs to build suspense. I just wanted to see where these two animals lived, and maybe do a little advance scouting for their future new home. Maple Creek was a decent, middle-class condo complex. The security wasn't airtight, but there was a gate. I parked across the street, watching Building 3. About half an hour later, a familiar figure appeared downstairs. It was Mark. He was dressed in a suit, carrying a briefcase, looking for all the world like a respectable gentleman. A moment later, a woman in her pajamas came out and straightened his tie. It had to be his wife. They exchanged a few words. Mark kissed her on the cheek and turned to leave. His wife stood there, watching him go with a smile on her face. What a loving couple. I raised my phone and snapped a few pictures. That smile. It was blinding. I started the engine and followed him. Mark drove a Volkswagen Passat, heading straight for his office. I tailed him all the way to the corporate campus, watching him walk into the impressive glass and steel building. A manager at a public company. Sounds pretty damn good. I wonder if he'll still be so impressive when his life is in ruins. I spent the afternoon in a coffee shop across the street from his office. My mind raced, plotting the most painful way to make them pay. Simply exposing them was too lenient. I wanted them to lose everything. Their jobs, their families, their reputations. I wanted them to be so disgraced they could never show their faces in this city again. My phone rang. It was Leo. I looked into Mark's finances. Leo's voice came through the line. He's had several large cash withdrawals recently, destination unknown. Plus, he's racked up a ton of credit card debt. Oh, my interest was piqued. Tell me more. Last month, he took out 50 grand in cash over 3 withdrawals, Leo said. This month, he's charged over 30 grand on his credit cards for luxury goods. On his salary, that kind of spending is a huge red flag. Luxury goods? I raised an eyebrow. What's a guy like him buying? Not for him, Leo said. It's women's perfume and handbags. I smiled. So, Mark had been spending a fortune to impress my wife. Probably using his family's money, too. Anything else? No obvious financial trail between him and your wife, Leo said. But they've been calling each other a lot, especially at night. Got it. I hung up. No direct payments didn't mean anything. Those luxury goods were all the proof I needed. I got home that evening to find Chloe had already made dinner. 4 courses and a soup, all my favorites. She stood in the kitchen, wearing an apron, looking like the perfect doting wife. If I hadn't discovered what she'd done, I would have been touched. Now all I felt was a bitter irony. You're home. She turned, a gentle smile on her face. You must be exhausted. Go wash up, dinner's ready. I didn't say a word, walking straight to the bathroom. As I washed my hands, I looked at my reflection in the mirror. My eyes were cold, devoid of any warmth. What's wrong? She had followed me, wrapping her arms around me from behind. Are you still mad at me? I turned and pushed her away. No. Then why are you ignoring me? She looked at me, hurt, her eyes welling up again. Just stress from work. I threw out a random excuse. I'm so sorry. This is all my fault, she said, looking down. If that hadn't happened yesterday, you wouldn't be so worried. It has nothing to do with you. I walked out of the bathroom and sat down at the dinner table. She sat silently across from me, not daring to speak. Halfway through the meal, her phone rang. She glanced at the caller ID and quickly declined the call. Who was it? I asked casually. No, nobody. Just a spam call. Her eyes darted away as she tried to hide her phone under the table. I didn't press her. I knew exactly who it was. Mark. Those 2 animals just couldn't wait. After dinner, she went to do the dishes. I sat on the couch, staring at the TV, but all my attention was on her. As she was washing the dishes, her phone screen lit up again. An iMessage. She glanced at it, her fingers flying across the screen in a reply. A faint, almost imperceptible smile touched her lips. I picked up my own phone. I sent a text to Leo. I need you to give me a few things. Leo replied instantly. What things? Mark's corporate address, his wife's contact info, and I thought for a moment, and an invitation to his company's annual party next weekend. I want one of those too. Leo's reply came back. Understood. I put down my phone and looked at the busy figure in the kitchen. A cold smile spread across my face. Just you wait. The show is about to begin. Next weekend's party will be your judgment day. I'll make you understand that betraying me was the biggest mistake of your life. For I waited outside Mark's wife's office for 3 days. On the 4th afternoon, I finally saw the woman in the cream-colored trench coat walk out. She was carrying a bag of groceries, her step light, the ends of her hair perfectly curled. She looked almost identical to the woman in Mark's wedding photo. I rolled down my window and honked. She turned, her eyes wary. Are you Mark's wife? I got out of the car, a manila envelope in my hand. She took half a step back, clutching her purse. Who are you? I have something for you. I held out the envelope, letting my fingertips deliberately brush against hers. Her hand was ice cold, a stark contrast to the warmth in her face. She took it hesitantly, not opening it right away. Mark's been pretty busy lately, hasn't he? I leaned against my car, watching her pupils dilate. Buying bags, booking hotels. No wonder he's always working late. The envelope crumpled in her grip. Inside were the credit card statements for the luxury goods Mark had bought, along with the reservation for a room he'd booked by the hour at the West End Hotel. Leo had dug it up. It was for last Wednesday afternoon, the exact time my wife claimed she was getting a facial. What do you want? Her voice trembled, but she bit her lip, refusing to cry. Nothing. I brushed a piece of lint off my sleeve. I just think there are some things you deserve to know. She ripped open the envelope, and the receipts scattered to the ground. The wind blew them around her heels. One of them, for the limited edition handbag my wife had been carrying every day, landed by my tire. Impossible. She knelt to pick them up, not even noticing when a sharp edge cut her finger. He told me that money was a project bonus. I started the car. Her figure grew smaller and smaller in my rearview mirror. There was no need to say anything more. Some cracks, once they appear, can never be repaired. When I got home, Chloe was trying on a necklace in front of the mirror. A small diamond glittered on a platinum chain, catching the light. Is it pretty? She asked, turning around. She tilted her neck up, the hickeys long gone, replaced by a fresh manicure, the same color as the buttons on Mark's wife's trench coat. Where'd you get it? I walked over, my finger tracing the clasp. Her eyes flickered. A classmate gave it to me. An early birthday present. Which classmate? Just, the one from the reunion. She turned her face away to fix her hair. You don't know them. I laughed out loud and tossed my phone onto the dresser. The screen was lit up with a screenshot Leo had just sent me. Mark's chat history from yesterday, asking a personal shopper, did she get the necklace? She loves it. Chloe's breathing stopped. I wrapped my arms around her from behind, resting my chin on the top of her head. My voice was as soft as a sigh. Next time you lie, make sure he deletes the chat history. Her body went rigid, as stiff as a board. The necklace slipped from her neck, clattering against the tile floor. Jake, I covered her mouth with one hand and used the other to pull open a drawer. Inside were 2 new pairs of underwear, pink, identical to the one that had gone missing. Wear these tomorrow. I pressed them into her hand. And remember to wear both pairs. Her tears finally fell hot against the back of my hand. Wear them properly, I whispered, looking at her ashen face in the mirror. So everyone knows whose property you are. Late that night, I lay in bed, listening to her breathing beside me. She wasn't asleep. She tossed and turned, wrinkling the sheets. The phone on the nightstand vibrated, the screen flashing on for a moment. It was a text from Mark. Same place tomorrow night? I took her phone and typed back a simple okay. Then I deleted the exchange and put it back. The person beside me seemed to let out a sigh of relief, her breathing finally evening out. I opened my eyes and stared at the ceiling. Same place? Room 308, or that abandoned shed. It didn't matter. Tomorrow would be the last time. The next afternoon, I went to Mark's office. The receptionist tried to stop me, but I told her I was there to see the director about the project Mark was in charge of. Before she could make a call, I'd already pushed open the director's office door. The director, a man named Roberts, was cursing at his computer. He looked up, startled. Who are you? Who I am isn't important. I slapped another envelope on his desk. Inside was proof that Mark had been embezzling project funds, something Leo had uncovered. It was enough to put him away for a few years. But the fact that Mark is selling your company's proprietary data to a competitor? I thought you might be interested in that. Mister. Robert's face turned purple with rage. He snatched the phone and bellowed, "Get Mark Johnson in here right now." As I walked out of the office, Mark was just stepping out of the elevator, holding a bouquet of roses, a smile on his face. The moment our eyes met, the color drained from his face. I gave him a little wave, a gesture of farewell. It was showtime. As soon as my car left the parking garage, I got a text from Leo. Mark's wife is at his office. She's got a pair of scissors. I made a turn and headed toward the Westin Hotel. Chloe should already be waiting there. Before I left this morning, I had casually mentioned that I had an emergency meeting at work tonight. In the rearview mirror, the setting sun was burning the clouds a brilliant crimson, just like the lies that were about to be torn apart and the filthy blood that was destined to be spilled. 5 inches the parking garage of the West End Hotel, I saw my wife's white Volkswagen Beetle parked in the darkest corner. The window tint was so dark I couldn't see inside. My phone vibrated. A text from Leo. Mark's wife cornered him in the company stairwell. Cut his face. Cops just got there. I smiled and texted back. Got it. Looks like some people were in more of a hurry to send them to their doom than I was. I got out of the car. The air carried the scent of the hotel lobby's fragrance, the same one I remembered from the last time I was here with a client. The receptionist looked up, her smile as perfect and rehearsed as a template. Good evening, sir. Do you have a reservation? I'm looking for someone. I gave her Mark's name. He booked a room. She typed for a few moments, her expression a little strange. Mr. Johnson is in room 8012, but what? He called a few minutes ago to say he would be late, and that his wife should go on up and wait for him. His wife? I raised an eyebrow. The son of a bitch couldn't even be bothered to come up with a different lie. Thanks. I turned and walked to the elevator, pressing the button for the 8th floor. The sound of the numbers changing was like a countdown timer. 8012. I memorized the number. The hallway was carpeted, muffling all sound. The door to 8012 was slightly ajar. I could hear rustling inside and the sound of a woman humming. It was my wife's favorite love song. How fucking ironic. I didn't knock. I pulled out my phone and started a voice recording. Then I kicked the door. With a loud bang, the door slammed against the wall and bounced back. My wife was standing in front of the mirror applying lipstick. The sound made her jump, and the lipstick streaked a red line down her chin, like a trail of blood. She was wearing the silk nightgown I had bought her for our anniversary last year. The neckline was low, revealing the hint of her cleavage. On her neck were several new hickeys. Jake! The lipstick fell from her hand. Her face was paler than a sheet of paper. What are you doing here? I should be asking you that. I leaned against the doorframe, watching her frantically try to pull the neckline of her nightgown up. Didn't you say you were getting a facial? What are you doing in a hotel? Her lips trembled, unable to form a coherent sentence. I'm here with my girlfriend. She just want to get coffee. Your girlfriend? I walked into the room, my gaze sweeping over the box of condoms on the nightstand. Unopened, but a different brand than the one I used. Which girlfriend? Is her name Mark? All the color drained from her face. She collapsed onto the bed. Let me explain. It's not what you think. Then what is it? I picked up the box of condoms and waved it in front of her. Dressed like this, waiting for your girlfriend in a hotel room? And you came prepared? She lunged at me, trying to grab it, but I stepped aside. The hem of her nightgown flew up, revealing a bruise on her thigh. Not from a fall, but from being squeezed hard. Enough. I threw the condoms in her face. Stop acting. Aren't you tired? I'm not. She shrieked, tears mixing with the smeared lipstick, making her face a grotesque mask. Mark forced me. He threatened me. Threatened you? I laughed and walked to the window, pulling the curtains open. Sunlight flooded the room, illuminating every filthy corner. Threatened you to take off your underwear? Threatened you to screw him in an abandoned construction shed? Or did he threaten you to wait for him downstairs from his office with his hickeys all over your neck? Her sobs stopped abruptly, as if her throat had been squeezed shut. Just then, I heard footsteps and voices from the hallway. I timed it perfectly. I opened the door. Standing outside were 5 or 6 people, all faces I recognized from the college reunion. The one in the lead was David, our old class president, holding a fruit basket. Jake, what are you doing here? We got a call that Mark was treating everyone here. Their gazes went past me to the disheveled, tear-streaked woman on the bed. The air froze. Someone's fruit basket dropped to the floor with a thud. Well, what a coincidence. I stepped aside to let them in, smiling like the host of party. You're here to see an old classmate too? My wife cowered in the corner of the bed, pulling the blanket around herself, burying her head. But everyone recognized her. Chloe. David's voice cracked. What are you? Ask her. I pointed to the figure on the bed. Ask her who she got all dressed up for. Waiting in a hotel room. Was she waiting for Mark? Was she getting ready to give him another hall pass? I put extra emphasis on that last sentence. Someone gasped. At the reunion, everyone knew about my rule of making her wear 2 pairs of underwear. They'd laughed at me then, called me overprotective. Looking at the scene now, even an idiot could put 2 and 2 together. Shameless. Someone whispered. No wonder Mark didn't show up for work today. So this is where he was. This is disgusting. They're both married. The murmurs were like needles, piercing my wife from all directions. She let out a sudden scream, covered her face, and ran into the bathroom, locking the door behind her. I stared at the closed bathroom door and took out my phone. A text from Leo had just come in. The company security has Mark. His wife is still raising hell. Looks like he'll be spending the night in a holding cell. Excellent. One fish was already in the net. The other one was about to be. I turned to our stunned classmates and smiled. Sorry to interrupt, everyone, but since you're here, you can all be witnesses. Witness how some people take the protection someone offers them and use it as capital to cheat. I could hear the sound of someone banging against the wall in the bathroom, but no one pitted her, including me. That missing pair of underwear was still in an evidence bag in my car. It looked like I wouldn't have to wait for the company party after all. The ferry to hell was departing ahead of schedule. I walked to the bathroom door and leaned against it. Don't bother banging your head against the wall, I said, my voice carrying clearly through the wood. Your old flame will be here any minute. I had someone bail him out of jail just for this. I had to let you 2 lovebirds say a proper goodbye in front of everyone, didn't I? The banging inside stopped. It was replaced by a choked, desperate sobbing. I leaned against the wall, listening to the beautiful sound. Just wait. This is only the beginning. Mark, your part in this show is about to begin. 6. I leaned against the bathroom door frame, listening to the muffled sobs inside, like a cat with its tail caught in a door. Rapid footsteps echoed from the end of the hall, growing closer, finally stopping in front of room 8012. Mark stood there. Half his face was wrapped in gauze, stained with blood. The other half was a swollen, purple mess, with a dried crust of blood at the corner of his mouth. He was clutching a phone with a screen shattered like a spiderweb. When he saw me, his eyes went bloodshot. He looked like a cornered animal. You. He lunged at me, but the cop behind him held him back. Mr. Johnson, control yourself, the officer said in a monotone. I smiled and waved a hand. Don't get so worked up. I just prepared a little gift for you. I wanted you to be here to receive it. Mark struggled, probably tearing the wound under the gauze. He winced in pain. You gutter rat. I'll kill you. Kill me. I tilted my head. You'll have to wait until after you've settled your accounts for embezzlement and corporate espionage. His struggles stopped abruptly, as if the bones had been ripped from his body. The classmates gathered around, pointing at Mark. I can't believe Mark is that kind of person. Embezzlement? Oh my God. No wonder he was spending so much money lately. So that's where it came from. The tide of whispers rose, drowning him. He suddenly turned and looked wildly at the bathroom door. Chloe, tell them. You seduced me. You came onto me. The bathroom door clicked open. My wife stood in the doorway, her hair damp, changed back in her own clothes. But the hickeys on her neck and the bruises on her legs were impossible to hide. She stared at Mark, her eyes as empty as a dry well. It was you, she said. Her voice was quiet, but it carried to every corner of the room. You said if I didn't sleep with you, you'd send our pictures to Jake. You said if I was with you just a few times, you'd buy me that limited edition bag. It was you. She paused, tears rolling down her cheeks, who dragged me into that abandoned shed and tore off my underwear. Mark stared, dumbfounded. His mouth moved, but no words came out. I almost laughed out loud. The woman certainly knew how to turn the tables when it suited her. Too bad it was too late. You're lying. Mark finally found his voice, roaring. You were the one who asked me out. You said you were sick of him. You were the one who... That's enough. I cut him off. My voice wasn't loud, but it silenced the entire room. Who initiated it and who was forced? Does it really matter? What matters is that now, everyone knows about the disgusting things you've done. I walked up to Mark, leaning in close to his ear. I spoke in a voice only we could hear. By the way, the scissors your wife had, I'm the one who told her where to buy them the fastest. Any evidence of your embezzlement? I'm the one who accidentally let her find it, and then accidentally reminded her to give it to your director. Mark's pupils shrank to pinpricks. He looked like he'd seen a ghost. I patted his cheek, smiling brightly. Surprise. But you didn't see that coming. It's called giving you a taste of your own medicine. The police officer escorted Mark away. He looked back at me, his eyes filled with venom and rage, like a fish about to be thrown into a vat of boiling oil. The classmates looked at each other, then finally at my wife. She stood there, trembling, her lips moving, tried to explain something, but unable to speak. David sighed, shook his head, and walked away. The others followed one by one. No one said another word, but their stares were worse than any curse. Soon, it was just the two of us in the room, surrounded by a thick, suffocating cloud of shame and filth. She suddenly dropped to her knees, crawling to my feet and hugging my legs. Jake, I was wrong. I was so wrong. Please, just forgive me this one time. I'll never do it again. We can start over, just like before, okay? Her tears soaked into my pants. Sticky. Disgusting. I lifted my foot and kicked her away. She wasn't expecting it and fell backward, her arm hitting the corner of the bed frame with a dull thud. Start over. I squatted down, grabbing her chin and forcing her to look at me. Do you really think that's possible? When you were naked in that abandoned shed, were you thinking about starting over? When you were screwing Mark in room 308, were you thinking about starting over? When you lost that pair of underwear, were you thinking about starting over? Her face was twisted in my grip, her face a mess of tears and snot. Just stop talking. I let her go and stood up. Looking at your face just makes me feel sick. I walked to the door and picked up my jacket. Let's get a divorce. You're not getting a cent. You'll leave with nothing but the clothes on your back. She stared at me, stunned, as if she didn't understand. A few seconds later, it sank in, and she scrambled toward me, screaming, No, I won't sign. Jake, you can't do this to me. I stepped aside. She lunged into empty space and fell hard on the floor. This time, she didn't get up. She just lay there, sobbing like an abandoned dog. I didn't look back. I opened the door and walked out. The hotel lobby's fragrance was still strong, but to me, it just smelled suffocating. My phone rang. It was Leo. Mark confessed to everything, he said, a note of satisfaction in his voice. Embezzlement, corporate espionage, and the affair with your wife. He told them everything. His wife has already filed for divorce and is suing him for bigamy. Apparently, Mark had rented an apartment with your wife, and they'd been living there as a couple for almost a month. I raised an eyebrow. That was a new one. Good to know. I hung up and walked out of the hotel. The sunlight was a bit too bright. I squinted. The air felt a little cleaner. The filth that had been clinging to me was finally being washed away. I started my car. The white Beetle was still parked in the corner, like a piece of unwanted trash. I ignored it. I stepped on the gas and drove away. In the rearview mirror, the West End Hotel grew smaller, eventually becoming a blurry dot. That missing pair of underwear, the torn marriage certificate, those unbearable images, they were all in the past. But I knew this wasn't the end. Mark's prison sentence was just beginning, and her punishment would be far more than just losing her assets in a divorce. I took out my phone and sent a text to Leo. Do me a favor. Accidentally let my wife's parents hear about what she's been up to with Mark. Message sent. I smiled. A good show needs an audience, doesn't it? 7. I had just parked in the garage of my building when my phone exploded. Over a dozen missed calls, all from my mother-in-law. There were also dozens of texts, filled with vile language, calling me heartless, accusing me of ruining her daughter's life. I blocked her number immediately. Then I opened a short video Leo had sent me. It was my in-laws' living room. My wife was kneeling on the floor, hair a mess, a clear handprint on her face. My father-in-law was clutching his cane, shaking with rage. How did I raise such a shameless creature? You've brought nothing but disgrace to this family. My mother-in-law was wailing beside him. Why is my life so miserable? Our perfectly good family is ruined. My wife was crying, grabbing at her father's pants. Dad, I was wrong. Please forgive me just this once. It was Jake's fault. He was planning to divorce me all along. My father-in-law kicked her away. Shut your mouth. Do you think we don't know how well Jake treated you? That whole business with the 2 pairs of underwear. Who do you think he was trying to protect? And what do you do? You throw his kindness back in his face. The video ended there. I slipped my phone into my pocket, a cold smile on my face. It was about time they learned what kind of daughter they had raised. As I got out of the elevator, I saw someone crouched by my apartment door. It was my wife. When she saw me, her eyes lit up, and she scrambled toward me like I was a lifeline. Jake, you're back. Please come back with me. Let's not get a divorce, okay? I sidestepped her. She fell to the floor. She was still wearing the same clothes from yesterday, now covered in dust. The tear tracks on her face had dried, leaving faint streaks. She looked like a beggar. Get out, I said, taking out my keys to open the door. Jake! She crawled over and grabbed my leg. I know I was wrong. I really do. Please, give me one more chance. I'll be your slave. I'll do whatever you say. I'll wear as many pairs of underwear as you want. I looked down at her face streaked with tears and snot. It was pathetic. It's too late. I pried her fingers off my pants. The moment you took off that pair of underwear, it was already too late. She clutched my pants leg, her nails digging into my skin. No, I'm not leaving. This is my home. Why should I have to leave? You can't do this to me. I've given you so much. Given me so much? What had she given me? Her talent for spreading her legs for other men. I was done talking. I took out my phone and called building security. Hello, there's a lunatic outside my apartment. Can you please send someone to deal with her? Hearing this, my wife's face went white. Jake, don't. She let go of me and scrambled backward. I'll go. I'm going right now. She got her feet, stumbled, and looked back at me. Jake, are you really this cruel? All our years together. Don't they mean anything? I leaned against the doorframe and looked at her. Mean anything? I laughed. When you were with Mark in room 308, were you thinking about what we meant to each other? When you were in that abandoned shed, were you thinking about what we meant to each other? When you lost that pair of underwear, were you thinking about what we meant to each other? Her face flushed red, then went pale. Finally, she bit her lip, turned, and ran, like a stray dog being chased away. I closed the door, shutting all the filth outside. The apartment was just as I had left it, spotless. Her clothes were still hanging on the balcony. I walked over, tore them all down, and threw them in the trash, including her favorite silk nightgown. After that, I finally felt a little better. My phone rang. It was Leo. Mark's case is pretty much a done deal, he said, his voice tinged with excitement. Embezzlement of over $1 million, corporate espionage. With all the charges combined, he's looking at a minimum of 10 years. His wife has already filed to freeze his assets. By the time he gets out, he'll be sleeping under a bridge. I smiled. Nice work. One more thing, Leo added. Your wife went to Mark's office to cause a scene. Said Mark tricked her and demanded he compensate her for her pain and suffering. Mark's wife beat her up. She's at the police station now. I raised an eyebrow. That was interesting. She deserves it. I hung up and walked to the window. Down below, my wife was being escorted by 2 police officers toward a squad car. She was still struggling, shouting something I couldn't hear. A pathetic clown. The sun felt warm on my skin. I took a deep breath. The air was finally free of that sickening stench. I suddenly remembered the missing pair of underwear. It was still in the evidence bag in my car. I went downstairs, opened the car door, and took out the bag. I looked at the pink underwear, stained with dirt and filth. It really was a ticket. A one-way ticket to hell. Except they were the ones who had punched it. I threw the evidence bag into a dumpster and watched as a garbage truck hauled it away, carrying with it all the filth and shame. Back in my apartment, I poured myself a drink. I sat on the couch, looking at the empty room. There was no sadness, no anger, just the quiet calm of release. My phone rang again. An unknown number. I hesitated, then answered. Hello, is this Jake? A woman's voice, somewhat familiar. It was Mark's wife. Yes. I asked flatly. I'd like to buy you dinner, she said, pausing for a moment. To thank you. I thought about it and agreed. Okay. Some debts needed to be settled. Some chapters needed to be closed. I hung up and watched the sunset. It was beautiful. Tomorrow would be a new day. A day without betrayal, without lies. And as for those filthy people, let them rot in hell and repent for their sins. The restaurant she chose was by the river. A table by the window offered a view of the setting sun, painting the water a golden red. Mark's wife, Sarah, was already there. She wore a black trench coat, her hair pulled back in a neat ponytail. She wasn't wearing any makeup, and the scar on her face was still faintly visible, but her eyes were bright. Have a seat, she said, motioning for the waiter. What would you like to drink? Just water is fine. I sat down. The food arrived quickly. She didn't touch her chopsticks, just stared out the window. Mark was sentenced to 12 years. His parents couldn't handle the shock. They're both in the hospital. The house, the cars. Everything was seized by the court. It's still not enough to cover what he owes the company. I swirled the ice in my glass, saying nothing. I was with him for 7 years. She suddenly smiled, a bitter, hollow thing. And in the end, I realized I never knew him at all. What about you? She turned to me. Do you hate her? I used to, I said, taking a sip of the ice water. The cold shot from my throat to my stomach. Not anymore. Hate is a waste of time. She nodded and picked up a piece of food. I didn't just invite you here to thank you. I wanted to tell you that we didn't do anything wrong. They were the ones in the wrong. I looked up at her. This woman was much clearer-headed than I had expected. The apartment Mark rented with your wife. I went there, she said, putting down her chopsticks. I burned everything inside, including that pair of underwear you mentioned. I was taken aback. So she knew. Some things, when they get dirty, you just have to burn them, she said, her gaze direct and honest. The same goes for people. After dinner, she paid the bill. At the door, she turned to me. If you ever need anything, you can call me. I won't. I shook my head. It's better if we both just move on. She smiled, didn't say anything more, and disappeared into the crowd. I stood by the river for a while, letting the wind blow. My phone buzzed. A text from my lawyer. The divorce papers are signed. She didn't ask for anything, just wanted it over with quickly. By the way, word has gotten around in her hometown. No one will hire her. I hear she's planning to leave the state. I deleted the message and put my phone away. It was all over. A month later, I went to the courthouse to pick up the divorce decree. The red marriage license was replaced with a green certificate of divorce. As I walked out of the building, the sun was shining. Leo was there to pick me up. He handed me a gift box. Congratulations on your freedom. What's this? I opened it. A new tie. Stop dressing like you're going to a funeral, he said, punching me lightly on the shoulder. I'm taking you to meet a friend tonight. I smiled and put the tie back in the box. Can't. I'm busy. The company had just landed a huge project. I poured all my energy into it, working late every night, collapsing in a bed exhausted. There was no time to think about anything else. Occasionally, I'd see updates in our old college group chat. Chloe wasn't doing well out of state. She'd gotten fired from a waitressing job for arguing with a customer, then quit a factory job because it was too hard. Eventually, she got involved with some lowlife who scammed her out of all her money. No one felt sorry for her. She should have thought of that when she was telling everyone in the group chat that I was abusive and a cheater. As for Mark, Leo told me he'd gotten into a fight in prison and was put in solitary confinement. When he got out, he was a changed man, completely broken. That missing pair of underwear. It really had been their ticket. Not to paradise, but to hell. One night, I worked until 10. As I walked out of the office building, the evening breeze was cool. My phone rang. An unknown number. When I answered, a familiar yet strange voice, hoarse and weak, came through. Jake, it's me. It was my ex-wife. What do you want? I leaned against my car, looking at the distant city lights. I'm out of money. She sobbed on the other end. Can you lend me some? Just a little. I promise I'll never bother you again. I was silent for a few seconds. Do you remember that pair of underwear? I asked softly. The crying on the other end of the line stopped. It taught me something, I said, my eyes on the lights of a boat on the river. Some people just aren't worth the pity. With that, I hung up, blocked the number, deleted the call from my history, all in one smooth motion. I got in my car and started the engine. In the rearview mirror, the lights of the office building grew smaller. I knew that the past, all of it, was finally behind me. As for those filthy people and their filthy secrets, let them rot in the dark corners where they belong. They should never see the light of day again. My life was moving forward, to a place with no betrayal, no lies. Only clean, bright sunlight, and a new future.